Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Fire Meaning. My 35 female sister, 25 female, has a bridesmaid, 25 female, gone rogue. I will preface this by saying my parents gave my sister a choice. She gets a sum of money either to pay for her wedding or to get set up with a house. My sister wisely chose to have the house, so her wedding is going to be a rather small affair she is paying for solo. I've been doing as much as I can to help with keeping her costs down, which, long story short, was a lot. She asked me to be her maid of honor, and our brother one of the groomsmen. Now, my sister has a bridesmaid who is a friend from college, Janet. I never cared for her, finding her rather rude and selfish, but it's my sister's wedding, and I'm quite good at dealing with people, so I ended up friending her on Facebook. The first issue between us came at a get-together my sister hosted. Janet made a pointed comment to her boyfriend in front of me, saying she was surprised at my sister's bridesmaids. That if she was getting married, she would be sure that her bridesmaids were thin, young, and pretty. It was obviously directed at me, as Janet and the other two bridesmaids are both very thin and younger. Frankly, it didn't bother me as a dig. I'm comfortable with my appearance and age, and I'm a 22 BMI, so not unhealthy weight. It may have been due to the fact that I'm gay and don't go for traditional pretty looks. The next issue though came with the bridal shower. I planned it with two cousins, and Janet decided last minute to plan a vacation over this time and convinced another of the bridesmaids that it was really family only and that she wasn't welcome despite being invited. She also posted a link to a thing about the top stupidest games played at showers on Facebook. If I wasn't sure this was intended maliciously towards me, I was after the Bachelorette issue, which happened recently. Initially, I was told by another bridesmaid the party was going to be on the 10th and that it was going to take place at a certain restaurant and club. Now, this club is literally down the street from me, and I actually own a small portion of the business. I was excited, saying that I would make sure it was amazing. A few days later, Janet messages me and tells me that the party was actually planned for the 17th and that it would be taking place at another location and involved mall shopping and male strip club. Now, I had posted that I would be out of town on business on the 17th, and neither shopping nor a strip club appealed to me, so I said that it would be a shame I was going to have to miss it. The afternoon of the 10th, my sister posted on Facebook that she had just been kidnapped for her surprise bachelorette party. A bit later, one of the other bridesmaids sent me a message asking me what I could do to make the party move into my restaurant or club. I questioned her, and she was under the impression that I had said I wasn't interested in attending the party. Obviously, Janet had actively lied to me to keep me out of the party. At this point, I could talk to my sister, but I didn't want to drum up any drama when she already was stressed out over wedding things, so I kept quiet. It is now 3 weeks out from the wedding, and today my sister has sent me a whole series of messages Janet has sent her. Janet has questioned, made snarky comments, etc. over every aspect of my sister's wedding. From the choice of music, too cheesy, to the transportation, Janet wants a limo, to the order of things, she wants the first dance later in the reception. I've told my sister to ignore her, that it is her wedding, and when Janet gets married, she can make her own decisions. But my sister is now second-guessing herself and freaking out that her low-scale wedding isn't good enough. My sister has a history of anxiety disorders, so this is not a good thing for her. A week ago, she was really happy about her choices. Now she's crying and breaking down. Right now, I don't know if I should tell my sister the way that Janet has been treating me. It might make her understand that this is Janet's problem, not hers, or it could cause more issues. I honestly want to give Janet a piece of my mind, but I think that could only make things worse for the wedding and for my sister. All I want is for my sister to have a good wedding. I don't know how to fix this issue so that happens. Oh, OP, Janet sounds unbearable, and I believe she needs to be removed from the whole equation here. I would pull her aside, call her out on her crap, and tell her to stay in line and to stop effing up your sister's wedding. While at the same time I would do my best to gather evidence and expose her as the non-friend that she is to my sister. I mean, I assume she knows your sister pretty well, right? I mean, she's a bridesmaid, so she knows about her issues and is still actively trying to make her feel bad about every decision that she's made. That's not the type of person you should want not in your wedding party, let alone at your wedding. So OP, if I was in your shoes, I would do my best to get Janet out of that wedding party and just not invited to the wedding at all. She's poison, she's toxic, and she's actively sabotaging the wedding that your sister was happy about. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Living Flying says, I would tell your sister. I'm afraid if you don't, Janet will find ways to sabotage the actual wedding. So far, she's only managed to F up the preliminaries. So sit your sister down, maybe with your mom too, and let her see that Janet's not someone who has her best interest at heart, and all her criticism is part and parcel of a larger agenda which she has been enacting. Reassure her that all her wedding choices are solid, and she needs to have confidence that she has planned the right wedding for her. Handle Janet using the minimum force necessary to keep her from causing further problems, and be civil as long as she permits it. But don't be afraid to take the gloves off if she tries to pull any further BS. And next time someone says to you she would be sure that her bridesmaids were thin, young, and pretty, say, yeah, I know what you mean. I would make sure mine were mature, kind, and classy. MM172 says, at this rate, if someone doesn't call Janet on her crap, she's going to pull some kind of major drama bomb at the wedding itself. Yes, tell your sister that Janet's been using the exact same nonsense on you, and that the only reason you haven't said anything is that you didn't want her exposed to it. Then tell her you'll do whatever she needs you to do to be supportive, from running interference on whatever nastiness Janet tries to pull by kicking Janet out of the bridal party personally, but this woman is not worth a moment of second guessing her decisions over, let alone what she's doing to herself right now. And OP responds, I seriously doubt my sister would kick her out of the wedding party at this point. They have a ton of mutual friends and I can't see it going over well. Plus, my sister is very soft and it would be totally outside her nature unless Janet did something very over the top. If it was me, she'd be gone already. Mectrit says, friend of mine got married recently, and although he didn't talk to me much about the wedding stuff beyond a point, he asked my opinion. That's all I gave, that's all anyone should give. I wouldn't have had a lot of the stuff he had, but at the same time, I knew he wanted his wedding to fit him and his wife, and they nailed it. They had Janets here and there, but eventually Janets were ignored. They made the day special for themselves, and it's gone down as one of the most memorable weddings half the guests have ever been to. Additional info from OP's comments. As far as I know, the other bridesmaids aren't really aware of what's going on. The bridal shower and bachelorette party were both sort of framed as mistakes, so I doubt they know or notice I was purposely snubbed. Frankly, I get the impression Janet wanted me to make a stink so that she could feed off the drama, so by quietly not saying anything, I took that power away from her. At the same time, I eliminated my sister's stress. At the time, it seemed like a good choice, but it means now I have to explain for others to understand. Alright, OP got some pretty good community advice and the clock is ticking, 3 weeks to the wedding. Now, we have 2 updates from OP, so let's move on with the first one. Everyone's suggestions pushed me over the breaking point. I met with my sister today for breakfast. She was a crying mess, second-guessing everything about her wedding. I asked if this was because of Janet's comments. She said yes and let me read all of Janet's texts and Facebook messages to her. Janet has been ripping my sister apart. I'm furious by this time, but my sister needs a big sister, not an avenging angel. So I told my sister the stuff Janet has pulled on me. She was horrified and kept apologizing. Then she got angry. The next 2 hours were a bitch fest about stuff Janet did through college. It seems Janet is the attention floozy type, and based on the stories, I seriously don't understand why my sister is friends with this girl. She has been universally miserable to everyone. Finally, I ask point blank if she wants to kick Janet out of the wedding party. My sister says no, that she feels she needs to keep her promise and that it's too late to kick her out now. My sister didn't get the same vengeful a-hole gene that I did, so I asked her what she does want. After thinking, she says she wants Janet to just leave her alone until the wedding. Done. I can be a butch fairy godmother and make this wish come true. I take my sister's phone, sent Janet a text saying that at this point all the wedding decisions are final, so there's no sense talking about them. Oh, and because my sister will be too busy between now and the wedding, all communication and messages should go through me. Then I blocked Janet's number. I sent the same message on Facebook and blocked Janet on Messenger, then unfollowed her feed. Finally, I sent a Facebook message and text through my account. Afterward, my sister just brightened back up and we ended up having a fun afternoon. I got one message from Janet saying she doesn't believe that my sister blocked her. There was also a passive-aggressive message on her Facebook, but at this point, my sister would have to actively seek it out. And just before writing this update, I called my mother and my brother, who is a groomsman. I informed them of everything Janet had been doing. We are all livid, but respect my sister's decision to keep Janet in. However, we are going out of our way to make sure we pull family rank and make sure things are great for my sister. Generations of passive-aggressive people have led up to this. You don't F with my family. My brother and I are close in age and my sister is the baby. We are all three very close, but growing up, we were very protective of her. I'm trying not to be aggressive, make all decisions sister, but still keep her safe. It seems like a fine line there. Anyway, I'll definitely be checking with all the vendors. With the exception of the DJ and Efficient, I think everything was booked through my connections, so I can do that without being out of line. And I'll get someone to be on Janet duty. She really doesn't have too much to do other than stand up and keep her mouth shut, so she wouldn't be a great loss. My only worry is that Janet will lash out because I'm cutting her avenues for attention and control by taking the wheel, so I'm bracing myself for an issue. Alright OP, it's on! So by now I guess you all want to know what happened at the wedding. Well, no need to wait. Let's move on to the final update and see how that turned out. The wedding was Saturday, and I thought you would all like to hear how things worked out. Following everyone's suggestions from the first update, I contacted all the vendors etc. and told them not to take any input from anyone that's not me or my sister, including the pastor, who my sister has admitted befriending and coming to for advice. Personally, I've not had good experiences with religious leaders and consider myself agnostic, but he was awesome and I understand why my sister considers him a friend and goes to that church. I ended up telling him the whole story and he got upset about things as well. A few days later, I get a call from the DJ who says that someone else called to question some stuff about the reception, namely the timing, which I knew was a sticking point for Janet. Later, talking to the venue, they said someone talked to them as well. In both instances, they gave the answer that all issues or questions should be directed to me. Meanwhile, I've been watching Janet's Facebook and found rather passive-aggressive posts that seemed to be pointed towards my sister and me. I ignored them and my sister maintained no contact. A week before the wedding, I get a text from Janet asking, "What should I do with Christopher? We have 2 hours where I'll be busy with pictures and he will be all alone." Now, I didn't know she had a child and didn't think my sister had arranged any childcare, so this seemed totally a pertinent question. So, without thinking, I replied that I was sure there were some cousins who would be happy to babysit, and that it would be wise to pack a bag of stuff if he was too young to entertain himself for 2 hours. Then, I messaged my sister, and it turns out that Christopher is Janet's boyfriend. It was an honest mistake, but kind of hilarious. Janet didn't message me back. Before the rehearsal, I made sure Janet had the full schedule for the weekend. I sent it through text, email, and Facebook message. She responded maybe twice to the group message I sent. The day before the rehearsal, I sent her several texts reminding her to be at the church at 5 p.m. Of course, she wasn't there. Everyone starts talking about it, and I guessed at this point word had gotten around that Janet was being a pain, and the general consensus was disgust and relief. The pastor and I talked, and he pulled my sister aside and said they would make plans if Janet wasn't there. It wasn't really a big adjustment. One groomsman would instead escort in the groom's grandmother. We do a run-through, the pastor calls for us to do another quick run-through of walking and seating, and the doors open and there is Janet. I think she thought she was making an entrance. Instead, everyone, grandparents, parents, and bridal party, were all shooting her the dirtiest of looks. The pastor, to his credit, put on his best, dripping with disdain, Professor Snape voice and said, "You must be Janet. We thought you weren't coming," and waved for her to get in line. She seemed cowed and stayed very quiet. Afterward, she tried to rather loudly claim that she had no clue what time things were. this was quickly disproven thanks to the texts I had saved. She is, at this point, just hanging all over my sister, sort of sniveling. We were meeting at a restaurant nearby for the rehearsal dinner. It literally was within walking distance, and most of us just wandered over. Somehow, Janet drove and managed to be late to the dinner, claiming to be lost. She ended up sitting by the groom's family. For the start of the dinner, she sat arms crossed like a petulant child. Then, she started drinking way too much. Thankfully, she was far enough away that my sister and her husband didn't really notice her antics. As we left, I think every single person there reminded her to be at the hotel to get ready by 10 a.m., especially my brother. She kept nodding and saying, "Uh-huh." I sent a few text and Facebook messages for good measure. Of course, the next day, she was a no-show. We had a hairdresser set up in the suite and she did all our updos, then hung around for a while before packing up. This is about when Janet finally arrived. I think my sister, by this point, was so done with Janet's crap she didn't even get upset. Anyway, to get this next part, you have to understand that I have long hair that I always wear in a tight French braid, then curled into a bun. Most people never see my hair down. For the wedding, my sister wanted this Pinterest-discovered loosely braided hair down style do's. Now, when my sister mentioned braids to us all, Janet had complained that we would all look like lesbians like me. Anyway, I answered the door with a rather nice hairstyle down over my shoulders, makeup done professionally, dress on. Janet literally has her hair wet, no makeup, and her dress in a bag. When she found out the hairstylist and makeup person was gone, she flipped. I recommended that she could just braid her hair like I wear mine every day, and she just shot me dirty looks. Instead, Janet ended up having a half hour to basically dry her hair and pull it up in a ponytail. The next little thing was totally passive-aggressive on my part. When my sister and I had our heart-to-heart before the wedding, she admitted that Janet sold jewelry through some pyramid scheme and she had strong-armed my sister into buying a jewelry set, which she didn't terribly care for. I told her that I would take care of it. I went through a connection and ended up renting a vintage set of jewelry, pieces far nicer than anything I could afford. On the day of the wedding, they brought it to the hotel and it brought my sister to tears. When Janet showed up at the hotel, there stood my sister glittering in diamonds instead of the plastic pieces she coaxed her into. I knew too well that this entered a temptation for Janet's power play, so I also contacted a guy who works at a friend's nightclub as security. The guy is quite professional and looks like he could be a male model. I paid him to walk around, supposedly to be security for the necklace. Really though, he was there in case Janet pulled anything and to keep my sister a bit more stress-free. Also, he ended up making my sister feel like a rock star needing security. The other bridesmaid was making eyes at him all night. He was the perfect professional though, and I know my sister won't mind him being in the background of the candidates either. All that was left was for Janet to behave like a petulant child, which she did, in spades, pouting and making photos difficult. I asked the photographer to place her at the end of the row in case my sister decides to have her edit it out. That's my sister's choice, but it's prepared if she so chooses. My security let me know Janet left right after dinner at the reception. None of us noticed. Later, my sister lifted the blogs for Janet online on the flight for her honeymoon. She hasn't made any contact sense or made any acknowledgement of the wedding or honeymoon pictures. And that's it. Thank you everyone for your excellent suggestions and thoughts. They helped me to make my decisions and everything seems to have worked out. Oh, OP, what a satisfying and happy update. Janet was absolutely unmasked and neutralized. I loved it. Also, your unintentional smackdown of her and Christopher, beautiful, OP. Thank you so much for sharing and all the best in the future to all of you. Take care, OP. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.